No one in the desert, town of Red Hollow, could remember a day when silence felt heavier than the morning. Caleb Reed hired the Apache woman with the veil. The sun rose slow over the cracked earth, spilling gold across abandoned fences and tired horses. But inside Caleb's chest, nothing rose at all. Since the war took his brother and the land took his father, Caleb had lived like a man already buried, breathing, working, surviving, but never truly alive. His ranch was vast, his hands were strong, but his heart was a locked room he never entered anymore. That morning, when the tribal elder arrived with a woman cloaked in white linen, face hidden behind a thin veil that shimmered in the light, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. "She will work," the elder said calmly. "She will speak little. She will ask nothing. But treat her with respect." Caleb nodded, not because he cared, but because loneliness had taught him not to question strange mercies. He didn't know then that this decision would split his life into two parts, before her and after the veil fell. She moved like a whisper across the ranch, silent, graceful, eyes lowered, hands steady. She milked cows, gathered herbs, cooked meals that tasted of earth and memory. The other ranch hands avoided her, unsettled by the way she never removed her veil, even in heat, even alone. Some said she was cursed. Others said she was hiding scars. Caleb said nothing, but he watched. He noticed how she paused before touching water, how she hummed softly when she thought no one listened, how she flinched at raised voices. At night, when the wind howled like ghosts through the canyon, Caleb would see her sitting by the fire, veil glowing faintly, staring into flames as if searching for something she'd lost long ago. And without knowing why, the emptiness inside him began to ache in a different way. Days turned into weeks. Silence turned into familiarity. One evening a storm rolled in, violent and sudden. Thunder cracked the sky open. Horses panicked. A fence collapsed. Caleb ran into the rain, shouting orders, soaked to the bone. When lightning struck near the barn, a beam fell, pinning her leg beneath it. She didn't scream. That was what broke him. He lifted the beam with raw desperation, his hands shaking, his heart pounding like it had something to protect again. Inside the barn, rain dripping through the roof, he wrapped her leg. Their eyes met for the first time through the veil, and in that moment, Caleb felt something terrifying: hope. That night, she spoke for the first time. Her voice was low, steady, carrying pain like an old companion. "My name is Ayana." "Just that. Nothing more." Caleb replied, "You don't have to hide here." The words surprised even him. She looked away. Some truths destroy the place they are spoken. From then on, something invisible connected them. Not touch, not words, but presence. Caleb found himself waiting for her steps, listening for her hum. He started fixing the ranch, not because it needed fixing, but because he wanted her to see it whole. But peace never lasts long in places built on old wounds. One afternoon, 3 men rode in, former soldiers, drunk and cruel. They mocked her veil, laughed at her silence, called her things that burned the air. Caleb stepped between them without thinking. "She's under my protection," he said. Ayana froze. The men sneered. "What's under the cloth, cowboy? Afraid she'll curse you?" Caleb's fist landed before thought could stop it. The fight was brutal. When it ended, blood stained the dust. The men left with threats. Ayana trembled that night. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "They will come back," Caleb replied softly. "Then they'll face me again." That night she cried. Silent tears soaked her veil. Caleb didn't touch her. He just sat nearby, feeling something crack open inside his chest, a place that had been dead too long. He realized then that he didn't want to save her. He wanted to stand with her, and that scared him more than loneliness ever had. Before dawn, she stood before him, hands shaking. "If the veil falls," she said, "everything changes," Caleb answered without hesitation. "Then let it change." She hesitated. The firelight flickered. Slowly, painfully, she lifted the veil. And Caleb's world shattered, not because of what he saw, but because of what he understood. The scars on Ayana's face were not ugly, but they told a story. No one should have survived. Burn marks traced her cheek. A thin cut crossed her brow. But her eyes were unbroken. They held fire, grief, strength, and a depth of sorrow that humbled Caleb to his knees. She was not hiding ugliness. She was hiding truth. They did this, she said. Soldiers. Not those men, others, years ago. My family sheltered the wounded. They called it betrayal. Her voice never rose. That was the worst part. I survived. My people didn't. Silence swallowed the room. Caleb felt rage, grief, shame, emotions crashing like wild horses. He whispered, I'm sorry. She shook her head. Sorry doesn't change history, but choice changes the future. The men returned 2 days later, armed, drunk on hatred. They dragged Ayanna into the open, shouting lies, demanding she be handed over. Caleb stood alone between her and them. No gun, no fear. You want her, he said, voice steady. You go through me. Ayanna cried out for him to step aside. He didn't. The fight that followed was chaos. But the town heard. Ranch hands returned. Even the sheriff came. When it ended, the men were gone, arrested, broken, exposed. For the first time, Ayanna stood without her veil in the open sun. She didn't leave after that. She stayed, not as a worker, but as a woman choosing her ground. Together they rebuilt more than fences. They rebuilt trust. Caleb learned her language. She learned his silences. They spoke of the dead, of guilt, of futures that once felt impossible. Love did not arrive loudly. It arrived slowly, like rain on dry land, and when it bloomed, it was unstoppable. Months later, the elder returned. She is free, he said. What she chooses now is hers. Ayanna looked at Caleb. No veil, no fear. I choose here. Caleb had once thought the world had taken everything from him. Standing beside her, he understood something deeper. The world had been waiting for him to become someone worthy of love. As the sun set over Red Hollow, Caleb spoke, not just to her, but to anyone listening. Some stories don't change us when we hear them. They change us when we stand inside them. And if you're listening to this story right now, remember this. Sometimes the veil in our lives isn't hiding others. It's hiding who we could become if we chose courage. If this story moved you, subscribe, because stories like this aren't just told, they're felt.